How am I supposed to get any work done today? Welcome to part 2 of Red Buddha. Just want to explain something as I launched into today's practice. Here is a very small piece, that little area above the lip again. I didn't do well in my anatomy classes, so I don't know what this little part is called that is directly above our lips. If you do and you want to comment, I would appreciate it. I would love to get something in our comment section. And hello, Poe. You aren't supposed to be in here. What I did was I took some of this lava paper and I just used the dark background to use as a background because I didn't have enough of this striped paper left, and I wanted to use that for that little area above the lips, but I didn't have enough. And I didn't want to make it so tedious. I was going back in and filling in eensy weensy little tips and corners with other types of ephemera. So I decided to use something that was already familiar to the collage, this lava paper, and use that as a background, and whatever I had left would fill in the gaps. So really the main focus of this little tiny piece is that same design, which is also the same design I used with the nose in the middle. I just thought it made for a nice cohesive look. It's going to be something like this. And right here, I really liked the way it looked. And when I was initially starting with it, it wasn't working out well at all. So that's why I went ahead, switched it up, and knew that I was going to stay with it, but I wanted to stay with that same ephemera, and that's how I did it. So to avoid more tedious work and to keep this collage fun, this process fun, I simply went ahead and created a small solution right there. So here we are, and we are in week 2 of this Buddha, this red Buddha. He's going to be mostly red, and I think we can finish him today. The best part about this technique is being able to see what it might look like using different pieces of paper. I love this rainbow dappled piece and am contemplating it for these 2 areas next. I'm playing with it, seeing how it's going to look. It's a nice contrast, that's for sure. Do I have enough? I don't know, so we're going to have to fall back on that technique I showed you in the last video, which is if you don't have enough, find something else to go along with it. I still have some of this wonderful iridescence. I also have this, and this kind of has a nice dappled look to it too. I might go with this. So I think I want to go with these 2 pieces. I also have this, and this is just a teeny tiny scrap that's left. I think that might look better. So I think I'm going to go with that. Another reason that I'm having a lot of fun with this is it's allowing me to play with what I have and to experiment. And before I commit to anything, And I'm not one of those those people that commit to a lot. I commit to this channel, I commit to collage, but I don't commit to other things. So, in any case, I think I want to try this, see if this is going to work. It will work. It's going to be fun. And okay. Yeah, so I think we're going to go with these two pieces next on these two sides of the upper lip. Glue down a little burnishing with some wax paper to make sure it stays in place, and that wax paper again does not let the adhesive smear. It picks it up and acts as a great resist. We have our pieces in place, ready to go, ready to be trimmed. Love working with my scissors in this case because it makes things so much easier, cutting around those edges, really easy to see. And while an X-Acto knife will work just as well for me in this case, I appreciate the scissors and the smooth cuts that it is making. So I'm just going along the lines until we get our shape out of this. We used the two pieces of ephemera, and I really like the way this turns out. It's a nice, cool little piece. Definitely a collage because we're using two pieces of ephemera. Gonna set that off to the side, and let's get to work on this one. Here is the similar issue with the lips. I was going to work on the chin area here, but the lips are up next, I believe, just because of the way things are falling into place. I have these contenders, but I do not have enough of either to cover both lips. Well, maybe enough. And that's going to be a challenge. I like this because I like the center that has developed. I like the roses because, well, roses look really good. I think I want to, gosh, I don't know. This is actually very subtle, and well, they're roses. How can you go wrong with roses? Roses might be nice. I do like this though. In any case, I'm going to have to do the same thing that I did with this smaller piece, find a background piece to fill in what will definitely have gaps. But before I do that, I really want to make a decision here. Do I stay with this? That was my cat walking by, stealing my seat because I'm standing up. I'm going to have to return him to the bed. So let's see. I do like the way this looks. Is it too busy? Well, the Buddha's already busy. I do like these roses too. Let's see how they look. Beautiful. If there was time, I'd do a poll and ask my audience which they prefer. The roses are winning. They're winning, aren't they? Oh boy. Yeah. You know what? We're gonna go with the roses, I believe. I think that'll be interesting. So, and we definitely, I don't think we're going to have enough to cover the lips with the roses. There's going to be a little bit poking through. So I do need a background. It shouldn't be too hard. We are working with a lot of red, something that's going to be comparable to the deep red of these roses. This looks like it'll work, so I should use this as a background. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out. More importantly, that it covers up those spaces, those little white tips that will definitely be showing through. So obviously we have more than enough for that. And then we'll just apply our roses after that. So let's get to more gluing. I didn't show this in the last portion that I scored this surface of the magazine. Magazine surfaces, as you well know, especially National Geographic, they're glossy and beautiful. When you use them for collage, that doesn't always lend itself well to good surface adhesion. So what I like to do is the spaces that I know I'm going to want glue on, I give them a very light scoring with my X-Acto knife. Just enough to add tooth to that adhesive so we have good adhesion. Here on the other side of this, I believe this came from a book, so it definitely has some gloss going on. I'm going to do the same on the back of, ow, I think I cut myself. Oh, I did. It's blooming red. I'm sorry. Hopefully none of you are too squeamish about blood. And that wasn't smart to do. So please be careful. We are in dangerous business here with X-Acto knives and scissors. Should be okay with a very, very small poke, but I don't like doing that. Absolutely, I don't condone violence. So here we go. We are going to go ahead and glue this on, hopefully without any more mishap. I'm not going to hurt myself anymore. Get my glue ready, and we'll get back to time lapse. For these lips, I want a little space in between to delineate the upper lip from the lower lip. And I'm going to cut a little bit of space so that'll show up on the collage. Slowly, gently, carefully. We don't want another poking of the X-Acto happening again. It didn't feel good. It actually hurt a little bit, guys. But I will live, and we will persevere and finish this collage, hopefully today. Do the same on this side. Just enough to show these are a pair of lips. It works pretty well. Now here we do have some of that white showing through, and it's not a terrible thing, and I don't dislike it. It's not hurting anything. As a matter of fact, I think it's actually helping a little bit with the design here. Go ahead and get rid of these. These are just little scraggly edges. Clean it up just a bit. I actually think it's helping a little bit here to see the white because it offers just a touch of contrast. I'm not too crazy about this right here, but there's not too much I can do about it other than doing a small cut maybe with the edge of my X-Acto blade. Yeah, I can actually use the scissors because it's not adhered down very tightly. So I'm just going to cut. Not too bad. It's not too bad. Not too bad at all. So pleased so far with the way this is going. Grab my template. I keep doing this through, probably going to be doing this now from here on out with the rest of the collage, just to see how it corresponds, how this ephemera is corresponding with each other for the finished product. And I am really loving how it looks. Yeah, I'm glad I went with the roses. So for those of you that were rooting for the balloon looking piece of ephemera, I apologize if you liked this more, but I kind of went with the roses. Maybe later on I'll do maybe later on I'll do something where we can have a poll and you guys can tell me what you like or don't like, and I can, whoever wins, we can use that piece of ephemera. So I want to continue maybe with, I do like how this was looking, the middle of the nose, the bridge of the nose, this small lip part, but then we have this here, and I am completely out of that lined paper, so I don't know what I'm going to use now for the middle of the chin. It's not a big deal. It's not a huge piece. It's not really something I'm going to worry about too much. I kind of like this because it corresponds with the upper lip imagery. So that might work for this piece. It's such a small little piece. It's not a big deal. It's not by any means a focal point, but it's something I'm concerned about. I may as well just go ahead and, well, I'll at least set it off to the side now. I'm not ready to do any work yet with that because it's not a big deal. Although I do pay attention to those small elements because if those are off, sometimes it's noticeable, and it's if something's wrong with those smaller pieces, it will detract from the whole piece, and I certainly don't want that. So I'm thinking about this chin, and I'm going back to this same paper we used for the ears. Far enough from the ears. And do I have enough? I have scraps. I like this, but I don't know if I have enough of just this section to work with. And not sure if I'm going to work with it anyway. It looks nice. I like that. I really like that look. Nice contrast here. It's not awful. I don't have enough. I have this much, so I don't know yet. I'm going to set this off to the side, and I'm going to do some more thinking in time lapse. Quickly, I just want to explain another advantage to just putting on light glue is that in the first few seconds after you applied the ephemera to the surface, I was able to shift it around. So you see, I have a little bit of white showing through, but that's small enough that I can trim away without having to bring in another piece of ephemera. So when you are conservative with your glue, you have time about, I would say, a small window of under a minute to shift things around if you need to. I don't like to do that because it does compromise the surface. It compromises both pieces of ephemera, and you run into a chance of ruining it or scrunching it up and starting over again. See, I'm just going to cut those little white pieces I don't want before I even begin trimming. But you have that option if you are careful with your glue. As you can see, we did not have a leftover template from the previous project to create the hair because I think I had to do the same thing I'm doing right now, is create a headpiece for the hair. I think everything is working out all right. The eyes are finished. And I'm just going to quickly put it together roughly to see how it's going to look with this headpiece. I can see. It's not going to be exactly like this, but it's going to be just a rough estimate. Nothing has been glued down yet. And what I'm trying to do really is gauge just the spacing. Oh, this is going to help using this template because it's really, obviously, nothing stays in place. Let me try this again without the template. I'm just going to try to work with it without the template, see how everything's going to space out with the features, the hair. So, let's see. I have some wiggle room in regards to where I want to place everything. I just want to make sure this will look good before I start doing a lot of hair work. Because once I do a lot of hair work, and we all know what I do with the hair, I use my hole punch and I do a lot of precise cutting of smaller pieces. That's a lot of work. I don't mind the work at all, but it's a lot of work. It's time consuming, and to do all that work, adhere everything down, and then realize, no, that's not going to work, that's a little frustrating. So I just want to be careful and make sure I'm not going to be wasting any time. So far, so good. I think this will be okay. He's going to have a high forehead, this Buddha. If anything, he'll have a high forehead. He may need some eyebrows. I know that I had eyebrows before. I think this was one of them. So he's going to get some eyebrows. This is the only piece that I could find left from when we were working on the eyebrows. I know these were eyelids, and I could still use them too. I don't know. I'm going to think about those eyelids, but he's going to need some eyebrows. Okay, I think everything's all right. I can proceed, in other words, with this template. I can start building it and giving him some nice hair. And that is going to take some time. That's probably going to take most of my afternoon. Move our pieces off to the side safely. And then I get to consider all of the different pieces that I want to use. I was cutting a lot of these little jewels free from a magazine page. And I'm also using my hole punch. So I'm going to start working on the hair. I like using other imagery within the hair just to give it a little more interest. It doesn't all have to be the same hole punch size. I did that with the last Buddha and I was really pleased with it. I actually have quite a few postage stamps, and those are small and have some powerful imagery and illustrations on them. So I'm going to go through my stamp collection and see what I can find there to make this a really nice headdress for the Buddha. So I think I'll do some work off camera just because it's going to take a while, and I'm fine with that. Nothing wrong with that. But I don't want to take up the whole video of me looking through my collections. So let's see what I come up with and see what we have in just a few minutes. So this is what I've been up to off camera, a lot of cutting and a lot of searching. I have a wonderful book about roses that I seriously found on the street. Somebody just tossed that book and I swept in and grabbed it and been using it for a couple of years now. Beautiful images of flowers, photographs. So what I've been doing is going through that book and also through my old stamp collections. I'm also taking imagery from the ad that I was sharing with you, the jewel ad. Swarovski, I think is how you pronounce it. Probably not pronouncing it correctly. But I am cutting out different shapes of jewels, and I'll be putting them through the Buddha's hair. I also went with my little hole punch, and some of the stamps that I cut out were simply too beautiful to only take the focal point out. So what I did was I punched holes through the rest of the stamp to acquire a couple more pieces of different colors to disperse throughout the hair, because it's kind of a larger area to cover. So I'm just kind of trying to keep things organized. And here are the stamps that I want to use. The love stamp, which is one of my favorite of all time. Anything that had red in it, because it is supposed to be a red Buddha, even though there are many other colors represented. This was a stamp. This also was a stamp. I'm just cutting out again anything that is red and will complement the idea behind this collage, and then just kind of sectioning it off again, creating that palette. Keeping my jewels in one place. I even took the eyes off of the model for that jewel ad, and I thought about maybe using them for these eyes. I'm just not sure yet. I love them, and they might look good dispersed through the hair or as the actual eyes for this collage. So something else to think about. Here's another rose image. I went ahead, cut it out. I wanted to have something for the background so we could cover up the white for the template. Oops, that's a lot of hole punch. Okay, I want to keep my hole punch pieces together. They're so tiny. I used a little bit of purple because even though it's a red, it's supposed to be a red Buddha, he's not completely red. I want to use some other colors that complement the red. Purple isn't so much a complementary color of red because red creates purple. I still like the way it contrasts with these roses and other images, other colors in the collage. So what I'm thinking about doing is using this piece and relying on it as the head portion. I think I want to cut these out. I have this over here. I could put this here and then just fill in the gaps with these smaller pieces of ephemera. Maybe something like this behind the roses, and putting the stamp images and the hole punch images, the jewel images, just disperse it throughout. I think that's the direction I'm going in. I'm going to take a very short break. Well, actually kind of a long break, but I will be back and we will finish this Buddha. I'm going to place it underneath this rose book because we have naughty cats that like to disrupt collage projects. And that's okay because that's what cats do, right? So I'll be back in a few. Returning to work here, all my pieces under some sturdy books and magazines, and a visit from my cat Cody. Yes, Cody, you want a collage today. For some reason, he's being very strange, and I don't know, and he's also trying to move my rig around. So I apologize for any wobbling in the next segment of this video. Yes, Cody. He's a friend, but not a helper. So remember the eyes. These eyes. I'm going to put them off to the side. What we have left to do is the hair, the Buddha hair. And what I'm excited about and thinking about is making it up of cut out arrangements of roses, staying with that red theme and doing something like this, which means I need to do a little bit more cutting and choose what kind of roses I want to use. I like this. This might be kind of cool. And it just means I need to do some more cutting. Remember, I talked about the stamps and also using the hole puncher as the design element for our finished Buddha hair. And I'm just going to get to it. So what's nice about this also is that it has a beautiful black background, which means I don't need to worry too much about whatever ephemera I'm going to put in on or around these flowers for the Buddha's hair. But I think that's how I'm going to end up completing this video and this collage. So let's slip on to time lapse, and if I can think of anything to say that you might be interested in, we'll slip back into video. But for now, let's keep cutting. Example of taking painstaking care to cut out something cleanly and having all good intentions of putting it in your current collage, and you abandon it. I love how this turned out, and I really wanted to put it in here. It was going to go on this side, and it wasn't feeling it, so stay tuned. You'll see it in another collage, I am sure. So the hair is coming out the way I wanted it to. I've got some white spaces up here that I think I'm simply going to just trim away. I'm not even going to worry myself with covering them up with more ephemera, because I like how there is negative space working in between the flower petals. We have enough of the template to hold the flowers in place. I used a little more glue than I normally do because this was the media was a book, and the paper is heavier and needs that support, so it needed extra. You saw me slapping on that glue a little bit heavier than I normally do after I was lecturing, keep it simple, keep the glue to be conservative with it, and I then go ahead and slap on a ton. It's because these book pages are heavier. So use your discretion when you are working on your own collages, or if you have an opinion on it and you'd like to share and offer feedback in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Love to hear about your experiences with collage as well. So here we go. We are pretty much finished with the hair. I'm actually wondering if should I leave the hair alone? Do I really need to add additional ephemera to it? These little bits and dots that I had been thinking about. I think as a standalone, it will be okay. I don't think there's anything wrong either with maybe adding some little dots and doodads to this Buddha's hair. I think I'm going to go ahead and add the dots and doodads because the other Buddha that we were working on, that we worked on, has dots and doodads going on. What's a doodad? Sorry, it just flew into my head and I just automatically share with you all when you are my captive audience here on the channel. So I'm going to go ahead and play around a little bit more, and I'm just going to casually place some of these ephemera pieces just so around, have a little fun with it, see what we come up with. I don't want to be too much in love. I don't want to be too much in love with anything that I'm working on, because sometimes it doesn't work out the way you want it to, and you need to switch gears. And I'm always switching gears when I'm working collage. You really have to be flexy when it comes to collage mixed media, which I'm really grateful for, because I'm the kind of person that's like, it's either black or white. There's nowhere in between, but collage is all about changing gears and accommodating what's going to look best. At least that's what I think. So I'm going to go back to time lapse and finish up this gluing. Was I think I omitted my Buddha's brows. Here is the solitary piece I have for those brows, and I was going to fix them over the eyes like this. Kind of difficult to see white on white. I'm going to quickly carve some eyebrows for this Buddha, and this is the general area I believe I want the pieces to lie. As you can see, it's not exactly bilateral, symmetrical the way I had planned, but I do really love the way the colors flow and the way the piece is working. I am very pleased, and I had a really nice time putting this collage together, maybe even more so than the first one, the Blue Buddha. I'm going to go ahead and fix these eyebrows and put this guy onto the substrate. Only fair to share with you what I'm doing since we've come so far together with this Buddha collage. I am taping down first where I want the pieces to go. Here are the brand new eyebrows, and I'm going to actually just tape them where I want them. And once I do that and they're in the place I want them, I come in with the Mod Podge, not a lot, of course, and I just dab a bit on to the back. The tape's still attached, so it stays in the place I want it to. And not a lot of glue in case I do need to remove it later. Cat hair. A cat hair on my collage. Who would have thought it? There we go. Some glue here. Another cat hair. My gosh, this is terrible. Okay. There we go. So they're on. The nose and the hair are attached. Again, not a ton of glue. Worst case scenario, if I don't like the placement or I just want to move, or I want to move things around, it's not that difficult to pull up because there won't be a lot of adhesive on it. It's easily repairable because the cardstock is protecting the collage image on the front. It's taking the brunt. This is where I was running into a little bit of trouble with the eyes and the cheeks. They didn't exactly line up the way I wanted them to. I'm okay with the way they look and we're proceeding, but I was a little frustrated with them. I'm going to put on a little bit of tape here just to make sure that each side lines up with the other. I decided to get rid of those human-looking eyes for this image, just because I just wanted to stay with what we had before. Just a little bit of glue, just enough to really just attach it to this white paper. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to go back to time lapse and finish this portion off. why my desk is never clean, because I find things and then I make things, and then I try cleaning the desk after making things, and then I find things and I make things. And this collage was compliments of this piece being left over and the pieces that subsequently went with it, and all of the lovely debris of ephemera that is scattered about this desk that my cats are currently sleeping on. This is the finished product. I can't even fit it all into the picture plane, into the frame here. It's about 11 by 14, so it's pretty large. I'm going to need to take a picture of it, and that means I'll need to go outside. We have a kind of cloudy day, and my editor likes taking pictures of artwork on cloudy days, so I'm going to hurry before the sun comes back out. And I thank you so much for joining me on this Red Buddha journey. I love this technique. I hope you do too. I want to do this again. Maybe with this image, with maybe a purple Buddha or a green Buddha. We'll see. But it'll be a while. I'll try to mix it up a little bit. Nonetheless, I hope you're back with us next week, and I hope you have a great one.